While they're sorting out the mics. So, next, kill the privates. And using parameters, apparently. With Jaroslaw. Again, I'm going to continue to butcher these names because I just don't have the right tongue for this. What?
Yeah. Yeah, it starts with yeah.
Yeah. It starts with a J!
No, yeah. Jaroslaw.
This is multilingual. Why do we have so many languages? It just causes issues. Anyway.
Let's all just speak English, yeah?
Anyway, killing the privates and using params.
Okay, hi, my name is Jaroslaw Marek, as you've heard already. I'm a senior software engineer in Puppet team, and I'll be talking about parameterized unit testing with JUnit params in particular. So, but first, before I start, one question to you. Do you know what parameterized tests are? Like, yeah, I see some notes, yeah, hands up. My team knows what it is already, yeah. Okay, cool. So why am I giving this talk? Not long after I joined Orion, I was reviewing a pull request and I saw some code which looked like this basically. And I asked why the author didn't use parameterized tests for that. And it turned out that my team wasn't using parameterized tests at that time. So I decided to do knowledge sharing session with them on how to use that. And after that, I got feedback that maybe it would be beneficial to share that knowledge with broader audience. So here I am today, sharing this knowledge with you, just 8 months later. So just to make sure we are on the same page, those are not parameterized unit tests. So you might ask, okay, so how parameterized tests look like? We'll get to that soon. But first, let me talk what's wrong with those privates. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be using private methods in test classes at all. It's just that there are some cases that are very useful, but you shouldn't be using them to mimic parameterized tests. It's just a matter of using the right tool for the job. So what's wrong with the code I showed? It's something you wouldn't write in your production code, is it? Normally you'd have one public method which would take in a parameter, right? And they are not grouped in the test results. If you run those tests, they are not grouped in the test results. And moreover, if someone else adds some more tests to that class, it might end up not, they might end up not be even grouped in the source code. So it's hard. So it's hard to follow which cases are tested and which aren't. And this way of doing things introduces some unnecessary boilerplate, so it makes test class a little bit less readable. So what is this JUnit Params? It's an open source library which allows you to write parameterized tests easily and run them with JUnit. Some of you may have already been using JUnit's built-in parameterized runner. Most of them, I guess, were irritated or frustrated by its limitations. I see some notes, yeah. Yeah, so you'll be glad to hear that JUnit Params is not like that, and it doesn't have those limitations. And it really allows you to write parameterized tests that don't suck. So what are its advantages over the built-in runner? It's more explicit, so you need less code to do the same things, and the resulting code is more readable. There are many ways of providing parameters, as opposed to the built-in runner where we only have one method of providing parameters. And it's very easy to introduce into existing projects. It's because you can mix parameterized tests with non-parameterized ones, which is very cool, and it's something that you just can't do with the built-in runner. And I think this is the most advantage of them all. Sounds good. So now let us see how it actually works. It's very easy, like I mentioned. You just need to add JUnit params to your project dependencies. Then you can start using JUnit params runner. Then write your test provided with parameters and run and enjoy. So first, dependencies. I already took care of JUnit params being available from Ivy. So it doesn't matter whether you use Ivy or Maven with your project. It's just there waiting for you to pull it in. Next, So this is how basic parameterized tests look like. Notice there's this runner at the top, and test method taking in parameters by itself. And remember that private method from the original code snippet? There's no longer need for it. And there's also no need for the instance fields like in the built-in runner. So if you were to run this test like this, it would fail because it doesn't know where to get values for those parameters from. So let's provide it with some. This is the easiest way of providing parameters, just inline using an annotation. And I find it very handy for small number of primitive parameters. And yeah, so notice like there is no need for any instance fields or constructor like with the built-in runner. And additionally, you can provide a test case name, which can have placeholders for the particular parameter values, and it makes it easy. It enables us to have human readable description in the test results, and makes it easier to identify which particular case failed should there be any failures. So if you don't like providing parameters inline, or you have somewhat more complicated use case, there are other alternatives like I mentioned, and so I'm sure you'll find something that suits your needs. And some of those alternatives include provider method, provider class, or even an external CSV file. So this is how the results look like in Eclipse. First thing to notice is that it has run non-parameterized tests with the parameterized one without any issues. And the second one is this grouping here. So this is one test method, which was run twice with different set of parameters. So you have two different results for different set of parameters. And I don't know how about you, but such grouping is very appealing to me. Okay, so I was talking about the built-in runner and how bad it is. So let me just show you how it compares with JUnit Params. So here we have the test that we've just saw. And here's the exact same test written using the built-in runner. So I know it's not readable, but I just wanted to show you how much boilerplate is needed with the built-in runner. And it always needs to be, for the built-in runner, it always needs to be a separate class, because you have those instance fields in here. So you need to have separate test class for each set of parameters. Yeah. So we are slowly getting to the end of my presentation. So let me recap what are the pros of parameterized tests in general. So it allows you to do true data-driven testing. And yeah, I guess the most important point from that is the reliability, the quality of tests, like Jakub mentioned. So if you are testing more cases of your code with different parameters, it increases your confidence that your tests are good, and you cover some edge cases, some real-life cases, and so on. So you can feel safer when refactoring your code and so on. And yeah, better readability, visual grouped in the test result, just cool stuff. So if I were to choose two things I want you to remember after this talk, is that parameterized tests are good, you should be using them, and that JUnit Params is something different than JUnit parameterized runner, and we say yay to this one and no to this one. So now, fear no more, go out there, kill some privates. And do you have any questions? Yep.
I have a question about, because you're using a specific runner for this, to use the parameterized test.
Yeah.
Is it gonna conflict with, like, if you want to use Mockito and annotations with Mockito, you need a different type of runner. So how is that gonna, kind of?
That's a very good question, and I would argue you don't need the Mockito runner to use Mockito.
Okay.
So you can replace the Mockito runner with iterate two lines of code in the setup method. So you do before method in your test class, and you call init mocks, and if you want, you can call verified framework. So it's basically the same as using Mockito runner. So of course you can use Mockito and JUnit Params all together. Yeah, they work together.
That will, if you do init in the before, it's gonna initialize the mocks using the annotations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the documentation of the Mockito JUnit runner.
Cool. Yeah.
If you read the Java doc, there it says the alternative methods.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I have to ask this. Sorry. Does this one play nicely with the last one? Will that parameterized runner work with the mutant PyTest code?
Basically, yes, because mutations don't change unit tests at all. It just runs them.
Right.
And you just change your production code. Right.
If it's
So,
if it's just running the tests, it will respect the runner.
Yeah.
Runner notation.
Right. Awesome.
Not a question, but just a comment.
Yeah.
The runner works pretty much the same as the Cucumber runner. So if I was seeing what you were saying about this runner, and it's really similar.
There are 1,000 different JUnit runners, so you can write your own. I don't recommend it. Having done it, I don't recommend it. Should I adjust it? There's some gotchas.
Yeah, next time for the next build, you will show your own runner. Cool. Or instruction. Yeah, there's a question.
You mentioned there's other ways of providing parameters. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so there is this inline method, like you're using annotation and providing it the inline as strings. Other way is to have, for example, private method in your test class, which would return you array of objects, and it could serve as input for your test. So let me get back to that slide. So here, yeah, so you will still have the parameters annotation here, but instead of providing the array itself as a parameter, you would provide a method name which provides you parameters. So this is one way. Other way is to have separate provider class which can have multiple methods, and you specify which class, which method to use here. Or you can even have CSV file which will be read for you, and parameters will be read.
Okay. If all those
line by
cases,
line.
you use that annotation to...
Yeah. And I think there are other methods which I don't remember, but at the end of this presentation, I have linked to the JUnit Params homepage, and they explain everything in details, and they have good examples of each way of providing parameters. Yeah.
You run with the particular value in the set, just say if yes, does the Eclipse has a good support for that?
Sorry, again?
Can you just run a particular value in the parameter?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you can do that. So you always need to run the test, and
The host way.
the test takes some few parameters, and it always runs all of them. But yeah, it's unit test, it's faster, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like it takes 5 minutes. Okay, I don't see any more questions, so thank you.